Assalamu alaikum. That's the universal greeting of peace. Um, and pretty much, you hear a lot of different things about Nat Turner. Um, Pretty much the most common thing you hear about Nat Turner that he was a brother that led a small slave revolt or insurrection that ended up with him killing between 50 and 60 white people, and in the end, him getting captured. And that's pretty much the narrative that we hear. But there is another side of who Nat Turner was and why he did what he did that's neglected by history. And it's a African tradition that goes that in the village a young man was always raised and told wonderful stories about the lion and how the lion will always be triumphant in the stories that he heard from Africa. But once he left Africa and went to America, the stories he would hear would be different. The lion will always end up getting killed. And when he went back home and told his grandfather about what he had learned in America, and he asked his grandfather, "You always told me these stories about the lion and how strong and powerful he was. But when I went to the West, their stories ended up with the lion always getting killed by the hunter," or so forth and so on. And he said, well, as long as the lion doesn't tell his own story, then he will always end up the loser. And as long as we as black people continue to let other people define our history and talk about our heroes and sheroes, then our history will always be smeared, or the whole truth will never be told. So it's my premise today basically to state that I believe that Nat Turner was a prophet, messenger, whatever you want to call that. I got documented facts without a shadow of a doubt that he definitely was a messenger prophet during his day, and he was divinely inspired to do what he did. Not just somebody who, picked up the sword with a noble cause and just killed white people. No, he was divinely inspired to do what he did. So I'll attempt to show the facts and the proofs today to back up my assertion. Alright, now first we got to define what is a prophet. For the most part, a prophet can be described as a person who stands in the place of the Creator that receives some type of divine revelation, inspiration to either act on something, warn the people about something, or give a message to the people. You can pretty much loosely define a prophet / messenger in that light. Now, I'm a Muslim by, I guess, my faith, my way of life is Islam. And I represent the Light from the West Islamic group. And it's our contention that we follow the line of history of our ancestors, that something was set in motion when we was brought over from the shores when we landed in the shores of North America, that set in place a revolution that was to happen. And our ancestors that came in that line, in that tradition, Allah raised many of them up to help us fuel our struggle or jihad. And we believe that we have to see those ancestors in their proper narrative and perspective so we can understand what it is that we need to do. We cannot accept the foreign interpretations and persuasions of what Islam is, because Islam is a universal religion, meaning submission to the will of God, submission to the will of the Creator. And it's also our contention that Islam is the modern day interpretation of what they say Mayat is. Truth, justice, and balance. And for the viewers, you must follow the narrative today. This is not just a rambling talk. It will be brief though, but I have to give the historical background and perspective on why I'm saying what I'm saying and why we got to look at our history in America the way we have to look at it. Because it would be unfair for us to become Muslims in America and continuously look towards the East for inspiration and to find our heroes from the East when Allah raised in our midst people to guide us and people for us to look up to aid us in our struggle. And one of the verses, I'm going to read a couple verses out the Holy Quran, talking on the subject of prophets and messengers. Surah 4, verse 165. It could be 164 depending on what translation you're reading. And it says, and we sent some messengers whom we have already mentioned to thee, and some messengers whom we have not mentioned to thee. And there's another verse. This is Surah 40, verse 79. And also it could be 78 depending on what translation you read. And it says, and we did send messengers before thee. Of them are some whom we have mentioned to thee, and of them are some whom we have not mentioned to thee. And it's not possible for any messenger to bring a sign except by the leave of Allah. That's the important, that last line. And it is not possible for a messenger to bring a sign except by the leave of Allah. And one more verse I'll cite is Surah 35, verse 25. And it says, verily, we have sent thee with the truth as a bearer of glad tidings and as a warner. And there is no people to whom a warner has not been sent. So, with that being said, it's clear from the Holy Quran that the Creator will always send messengers and warners to people. And there's no way you could say God sent messengers and prophets in the past. And now that we alive today catching all the hell we catching, there's no messenger or warner that will be sent to us. And nobody raised up divinely from among our ranks that God would talk to. I mean, that's just stupid. That don't make no sense. That's like saying you worship a dead God. And there's no point in practicing a way of life that's dead, that provide no fresh guidance and inspiration for the sons of slaves. So, I think it was in the 60s, it was a book written about Nat Turner by a cracker named William Styron. And pretty much it was his own creation of what happened to Nat Turner, where he added a lot of freakish European fantasies and historical inaccuracies in his depiction of who and what Nat Turner was. Now, John Henry Clark forwarded a book called The Second Crucifixion of Nat Turner, which 10 writers got together to talk about how the autobiography that William Styron put out was baloney, pretty much. And one paragraph that he says from the introduction is